the WA5CKF repeater.
Well, I hope you followed us over to the WA5CKF repeater over in Irving. This is KE5ICX. My name's
spoke about missions to Mars, mainly the missions in the past and ones that are now and in the future planned at this time. So that was very interesting. I do not know what our March topic will be, but the meeting will be the second Sunday of March. Because of the coronavirus, we don't have any in-person events, and so we're not doing things at the Perot Science Museum or universities. Anyway, Perseverance has landed. That's the good news here we have, and I think that's it. On another topic that's unrelated, I have another piece of news, Tom. So, do you mind if I go on? This involves what's going to go on tomorrow night here on this repeater. If you don't mind, can I give that news now? This is Inside BB.
Oh, go ahead, Bill. That's the perfect time to go ahead.
Okay. Just been in a conversation a few minutes ago with Tony in T5TM, who is he is the radio officer for the City of Dallas Races Group. So what we're going to do tomorrow night is the Dallas meeting on the air is going to go on at the regular time, 7 p.m., but it's going to be on this repeater, the three Irving repeaters. You can get on any of the three frequencies. And I'll describe them if anybody doesn't know what the other two are. They're on the 2 meters, 220, and 440. And he is going to stop the meeting on the air sometime before 7:45. Starting at 7:45, the Irving Races Group will come up on this repeater tomorrow night and do check-ins for about 10 minutes. Then at 8 o'clock, Tony will start up the Dallas, or whoever the net control is, will start up the Dallas Races training session, and it will run at 8 p.m. tomorrow. So it'll be the same time as normal. It's just that everything that was going to be on 8/8 is over on this repeater. And you can pretty much assume that anything that was going to be on 8/8 the next several days is going to be on this repeater instead. That's kind of the basic assumption. I think that's it. One more thing is the two Echolink nodes are interconnected, so you can get into the W5FC Echolink node or the Irving WA5CKF Echolink node, and anything you do on one of them will go out the other. But as Tom knows all too well, the W5FC Echolink node is not connected to a radio right now, so it's connected to the internet. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. The REACT repeater, the 14696 repeater, which is the backup for Races in Dallas, the City of Dallas, it also has lost power. So let's hope the Irving repeater, which is on a very good site, keeps its power up. In 5 dB. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for those announcements. Thank you for use of WA5CKF over the next few days. Our location has DRC held up for 2 days. Well, I guess things were not going so well at the repeater site. Can't tell you where that is. Most people don't say where their repeaters are located, and there's reasons for that. But it is in a location that is, well, been pretty good for the last 40 years. The only problem is that because of the wonderful weather that we had, it took its toll. So we'll see how this all goes. Hopefully we can get this all back up and running here soon. What we really need is power restored, and we'll be fine. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. So tonight, Brenda, WB5OZL, had a topic that we're going to talk about, which is, of course, has everything to do with landing on Mars with Perseverance. So she brought up a few things, and if I can get this to work correctly, let's see here. I'm also doing the video and trying to figure out what's going on with audio, all the fun things that you would expect. So if you're looking at the feed, hopefully you can, who knows if you are, but there's a shot there of the Perseverance landing from tethered from its parachute, or actually from the sky crane, just about the last, 200 feet or so before it actually landed on Mars. So this is what she says. Mars is having its busiest 2 weeks in 47 years. Mars and Earth are lined up neatly this last summer, and 3 separate space agencies seized on the opportunity. It's a busy February for Mars, with 3 probes from 3 separate countries arriving at the red planet over the course of just 9 days. This involves the United Arab Emirates and their first interplanetary mission. The Hope probe achieved Mars orbit on Tuesday, February 9th, and is sending back excellent pictures. China's first interplanetary mission, Tianwen-1, entered its own Martian orbit on Wednesday. That's February 10th. The Chinese probe includes both an orbiter and a lander with a rover on board, which is expected to try to land on the surface in May. And on February 18th, NASA's first-of-its-kind descent vehicle reached Mars and plunged directly through the atmosphere. The vehicle shed its outer shell and used rockets to stop its descent at the last moment. In a flawless operation, it hovered above the surface to lower the rhinoceros-sized, interesting term, nuclear-powered $2.7 billion Perseverance rover to the dirt via sky crane. The 7 minutes of terror turned into a jubilant celebration, and we quickly got our first pictures. Looks like those lucky peanuts worked. The custom of passing the peanuts started with Ranger 7, with a series of failures which followed by success, obviously caused by eating peanuts. It's been a custom on and off ever since. The Perseverance rover has 4 scientific objectives that support the Mars Exploration Program's science goals. First one is looking for habitability, the ability the identify past environments capable of supporting microbial life. And the second is seeking biosignatures, signs of possible past bacterial life in those habitable environments, particularly in special rocks known to preserve signs over time. Third, caching samples, collecting core rock and soil samples, and soil in parentheses because we don't know. Soil has bio elements in it, so it could be regolith if there is no actual soil samples, and store them on the Martian surface, preparing humans to test oxygen production from the Martian atmosphere. Based on scientific objectives, nearly 60 proposals for rover instrumentation were evaluated, and on July 31st, 2014, NASA announced 7 scientific instruments that would make up the payload for the rover. Planetary Instrument, or X-ray Lithochemistry, or PIXL, on an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer to determine the fine-scale elemental composition of Martian surface materials. It sounds very impressive. I have no idea what that means. Radar imager, which I've got on screen, for Mars Subsurface Experiment, or RIMMAX, a ground-penetrating radar to image different ground densities, structural layers, buried rocks, meteorites, and detect underground water ice and salty brine at 33-foot depth. The RIMMAX is being provided by the Norwegian Defense Research Establishment. We also have the Mars Environmental Dynamic Analyzer, a set of sensors that measure temperature, wind speed, direction, pressure, and relative humidity, radiation, and dust particle size and shape. It's provided by Spain's Center of Astrobiology. The Mars Oxygen ISRU experiment, or known as MOXIE, an exploration of I'll get it right, of the oxygen, that produce small amounts of oxygen from the Martian atmosphere. This technology could be scaled up in the future for human life support, or to make the planet, to make rocket fuel for return missions. There's also the SuperCan, an instrument suite that can provide imaging, chemical composition analysis, and mineralogy in rocks and regolith from a distance. It is an upgraded version of the ChemCam on the Curiosity rover, but with 2 lasers and 4 spectrometers that will allow it to remotely identify biosignatures and access the past habitability. Los Alamos National Laboratory, the Research Institute Astrophysics and Planetology, the IRAP in France, the French Space Agency, or CNES, the University of Hawaii, and the University Valladolid in Spain, yeah, they did it, cooperated with SuperCam's development and manufacture. Mastcam-Z, a spectroscopic imaging system with the ability to zoom. Okay. We also have Sherlock, scanning habitable environments with Raman and luminescence for organics and chemicals, better known as Sherlock. I think I like that term better than the other. An ultraviolet Raman spectrometer that uses scale imaging and ultraviolet laser to determine fine-scale mineralogy and detect organic compounds. There are also a number of cameras, and for the first time, for a Mars probe, 2 audio microphones will be used during the landing event while driving and when collecting samples. I wonder if they're Heil mics, do you think? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So what happens next? NASA's Perseverance rover isn't ready to start rolling on Mars just yet. It's likely to be a few months before Perseverance really starts sinking its teeth into real science work. For starters, the rover's handlers will spend the next few Martian days or sols getting Perseverance up to speed in its new digs. A sol lasts 24 hours and 40 minutes, just slightly longer than an average Earth day. The team will stabilize the 6-wheeled robot's power, thermal, and communication system so that it's ready to switch over to new surface-tailored flight software, which is already on the rover. Over the course of the next 3 or 4 sols of these early activities, we'll get all the instrument health checks done. We'll charge the rover battery. Perseverance head-like instrument-laden mast will also be deployed in these first few sols, allowing great new imagery to be captured. For example, the rover's Mastcam-Z camera system is scheduled to take its first color panorama on Sol 3. So there you go. The software switch will begin on Sol 4 if all goes according to plan, and that is an important step for things to complete. Once we start to do that, we'll have about 4 days of transitioning to new software, Trosper said. We'll do it very carefully. We toe tip, we make sure that nothing goes wrong, and in the end, that is when we start the next set of checkouts where we'll deploy the arm. We'll do our first drive about 5 meters forward and back. test drive will ready Perseverance for its first big trip, a journey to the Martian airfield. A mission team will send the rover to a good open spot where the four-pound helicopter, Ingenuity, one of the mission's technology demonstrations, can strut its stuff. Perseverance also carries a tech demo designed to create oxygen. Well, we talked about that. Mars carbon dioxide dominated atmosphere gear that could aid future human settlers on the red planet. Ingenuity will then drop onto the ground from Perseverance belly, where it's been attached since before the mission's July 2020 launch, and the rover will drive a safe distance away. Ingenuity will fire up its blades and attempt to become the first rotor craft ever to fly the skies of a world beyond Earth. Getting Perseverance to the helipad and then safely out of the way might require 10 sols or so, and the demo flights are expected to take a total of 30 sols, cost per set. After that work is done, the team will upgrade the rover's auto-navigation capability, and Perseverance will then start driving towards its first main science site, which is the mission team will identify over the coming days and weeks. So the expected time frame is helicopter prep and flights in the spring, with science work starting in earnest in the summer. So we got a little bit of time to get this stuff working. So there you have it. What's been going on with the Martian. This is KE5ICX and net control for tonight's Skynet over on the WA5CKF repeater. I'll take additional check-ins before we move to the next session. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name where you're transmitting from. Please come now.
This is Kilo Fox 5 Tango Hotel Bravo Brent via Echolink from Henrietta, Texas. No traffic, back to net. KF5THB. This is Kilo India 5 Kilo Tango Zulu Philip White Rock Lake on Echolink.
This is Kilo India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis in Fort Worth on Echolink.
All right, very good. Let me go ahead and get these folks checked in. First off, I did not acknowledge Bill, but I will now. N5BB, he's there. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto. K5THB, Brent in Henrietta. KI5KTZ, that's Philip at White Rock Lake. And KI5BNP, that's Luis in Fort Worth. Any additional check-ins, please come now. Okie dokie, I did get John over on Echolink, KG5PPH. I bet you thought I was ignoring you. I did get you, John, on this round. All right, next up is Was Up, and that's with Chaz. It's KF5JHA. Chaz, go ahead. Your segment is next from KE5ICX.
Hi, I'm going to try to transmit over here on Echolink because I was a little bit noisy, it sounded like, on RF. This is Chaz, KF5, JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I am the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. That was slide number 1, Slide Master. Thank you so much. Oh, I see it on the video link. Okay. Slide number 2, please. Tonight, the sunset was later than just a week ago at around 8:16 p.m. Central Standard Time. This time of the year, the sunset time will vary by around a minute per day. Last Saturday, the sunset was at 6:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. During the winter solstice around December 21st, here in Dallas, we only had about 10 hours of sunlight. At the summer solstice around June 21st, we'll have about 14 hours of daylight here in Dallas. That is a change of 4 hours of daylight. That variation in the number of hours of daylight from winter to summer depends on where you are on the surface of the earth. At the equator, people experience 12 hours of daylight every day. In fact, the sun rises and sets at just about the same time every day for those living at the equator. Slide number 3. But those scientists that are living in the South Pole, they won't have any nighttime on February the 20th, nor will they have any night tomorrow, nor any time this month. The sun will set around March 21st, and it won't rise again until September 21st for them. They have 6 months of daylight and then 6 months of stars. They only have 1 day per year. Wow. Slide number 4, please. On February the 18th, the moon was at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit which is furthest from the Earth. On February the 19th, the moon was at its first quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. The moon will be full on February the 27th, and on March the 1st, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit which is closest to the Earth. And on March the 5th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. Slide number 5, please, sir. On February 26th, low in the early morning southeastern sky, you can find Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. Mercury will be in between Saturn and Jupiter. The day before that, it's not quite in between, and the day after that, it's not quite in between. So February 26th. Slide number 6, please. On March the 5th, in the early morning eastern sky, Mercury and Jupiter will be about half a degree apart. The bright object that is on the right side will be Jupiter. Mercury will be on the left side and dimmer. Slide number 7, please. A few days later in the eastern morning sky, on March the 9th, you can find a line of solar system objects in the southeastern sky. Going from left to right and lower to higher, Mercury is low in the east-southeastern sky. Then above and to the right is Jupiter. Further to the right and about twice as far away is Saturn. And about 5 degrees to the right of Saturn, you can find the waning crescent moon. Should be an interesting time to see. Hope it's clear in that morning. Slide number 8. The very next morning on March the 10th, the planets Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn will all be in about the same position, but the moon will now be to the right of Jupiter and Mercury. Slide number 9, please. On the evening of March 19th, which is the birthday of a famous astronomer, the moon and Mars will be found just to the upper right of the Hyades star cluster in Taurus. The Hyades is the V-shaped group of stars that make up the face of Taurus the bull. Slide number 10, please. Since it's been so cloudy, I wanted to remind you to find Canopus. Canopus is the second brightest star in the sky. Canopus is not easy to find for us here in North Texas because it never gets more than 4.5 degrees high in the sky. And that is happening in the evening sky at this time of the year. At 8:45 or so this evening, you could have looked very low in the southern sky, well below Sirius, and you could see it, to the constellation of Carina. Carina is the constellation of the hull of a ship. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, February the 26th. That's just in 6 days at 7:30 p.m. with Dr. Andrea Dupree. Her talk is titled The Mysterious Great Dimming of Betelgeuse. Just a reminder, that happened a year ago. We talked about that extensively on Skynet last year at this time. A link to the meeting, Zoom meeting, will be sent out to club members sometime this week. Once again, if you want detailed information about the Texas Astronomical Society, go to texasastro.org. Slide number 12, please. I want to thank the students from Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus that are listening and watching Skynet tonight, probably either on YouTube or Facebook. Students, just a reminder, if you want to get stargazing class credit for this, then remember to fill out the form on eCampus by answering the questions, and do this within the next 48 hours. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. I don't know everything by any means, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with a call sign if you have a question. Gus, go ahead. What's your question?
Well, thank you, Chaz. I'm not really astronomical, but I'm just curious. I wonder why the Chinese, their orbiter, it's in orbit. Everything's in orbit, but they're waiting till May. I was just curious about why they're waiting till May to go forth from orbit, land from orbit. Back to that, W5GUS.
That's a great question, and you know what? I don't have the answer. Too bad our solar system ambassador, Kelly, is only on Echolink and is not transmitting tonight on RF. But maybe, this guy that's smiling on the video, he might know, because he knows some of these things too. Tom, do you have any idea? You know about these launches in space. I'm going to let you see if you can answer this question.
All right, I'll do the best I can. Gus, I don't know exactly the answer to your question, but if this is anything like the old Voyager missions that went on in the 1970s, you had an orbiter and a lander, being able to scout out sites from orbit is a really great way to ensure that your spacecraft is going to land successfully. That's really, really important, and getting detailed photographs are incredibly important. And then being able to guide your spacecraft down successfully, because the last thing you need when the landing is to land on top of a boulder or on the side of a crater, even a small one, or to have, possibly land someplace where you're in shadow. All these things matter, so they're going to look for certain sites, I would assume, and then they're going to look for something that they want to do. Now, granted, the thing is they've got tons and tons of photographs that have already come back from other missions through the years, for the 4 decades that we've been landing on Mars. But in the end, you got to have the latest information. And another thing to consider, and let me reset, weather can sometimes play into it. Yes, Mars has weather, so high winds could cause problems in your landing site, particularly if you're using parachutes, which I believe this system is. So it changes over time, and it's really, really important that you have the most up-to-date information as you can. The other thing may be also lighting, the tilt. There is a tilt on Mars. It has summer and winter and the like. So imaging going to Mars is one thing. The timing to get there is important. The other part is that when you're landing, can you see all of the objects on the ground that are proper and with enough shadow so that you know the depth of field? Those things matter as well. So I suspect those things are involved. I'm not one of those folks, and it's too bad we don't have Kelly here, she might be able to tell us more. She might actually put something in the chat window. But those are the things I suspect from landing missions going all the way back to Apollo, and then from all the Mars missions. Those landings have to be precise. Did I answer your question, Gus, or did I make it more confusing? KE5ICX.
No, that helps quite a bit, Tom. Thank you. I think I seem to remember they were thinking about a polar landing site. So maybe the tilt, maybe that's it. They're waiting for the pole they're going to land at to come into the sunlight. Interesting. A bunch of different possibilities there. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Chaz. Back to net. W5GUS.
Well, thank you, Gus, for the question. And slide number 13, please. So as the moon wanes during the first part of March, so do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next week, keep on looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA Chaz, backdoor net control.
All right, thank you, Chaz, and thanks to this segment, and this is KE5ICX. I'm net control tonight. We're coming up on a segment here, space exploration and space history. But first, I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.
All right, very good. I got John, K5JDW. He found us over here on 7.2. I got you checked in. All right, the next segment normally would be done by Kelly or Brenda, but I have it this evening. Lots of stuff, I guess, but that's okay. I don't mind. It's been very interesting for all of us. We'll get through it. Okay, space exploration and space history. Let me go ahead with space exploration news. If I got this right. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Yeah, I think I got it. So, in space news, we have, of course, the FAA SpaceX Starship update. The FAA provided oversight of the SN9 mishap investigation conducted by SpaceX. The SN9 vehicle failed within the bounds of the FAA safety analysis. The statement continued, its unsuccessful landing and explosion did not endanger the public or property. All debris was contained within the designated hazard area. The FAA approved the final mishap report, including the probable causes and corrective actions. SpaceX is developing Starship to take people and cargo to Mars and other distant destinations. The architecture consists of two reusable elements, a 165-foot tall spacecraft called Starship and a giant rocket known as Super Heavy. SpaceX is iterating its way toward the operational Starship via a series of increasingly complex prototypes, several of which have already gotten off the ground. SN8 and SN9 vehicles, both of which have three Raptor engines, as SN10 does, flew about 6 miles high on December 9, 2020 and February 2nd, respectively. Both performed well until the very end, failing to stick their landings, meaning it didn't land back on the pad as you have come to expect. We also have NASA's Perseverance rover successfully landed on Mars on February 18th, completing the nearly 7-month-long journey from Earth in the beginning of the years-long exploration of the Red Planet. Perseverance touched down at Jezero Crater on Mars at 3:55 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 minutes after the rover, encapsulated within a heat shield and back shell, entered the Martian atmosphere. The entry, descent, and landing appeared to go according to plan, punctuated by the touchdown confirmed call and mission control at the JPL. Wow, an amazing, incredible day, NASA Acting Administrator Steve Zyrzik said at the post-landing briefing at JPL. I could not be more proud of the team and what they've accomplished under challenging circumstances. The rover landed about 1.7 kilometers southeast of the crater of the landing zone, said Alan Chen. The entry, descent, and landing lead for Perseverance at JPL during the post-landing briefing. The spacecraft's terrain relative navigation system, which matches images taken as it descends against onboard computer, helped guide the rover to a flat landing area avoiding rocky, hazardous terrain. Now on to space-related birthdays. February 15th, 1935 was the birth of Roger Bruce Chaffee. Along with 13 other pilots, Chaffee was selected to be an astronaut as part of NASA's Astronaut Corps 3 in 1963. He served as capsule communicator at Capcom for Gemini 3 and 4 missions and received his first spaceflight assignment in 1966 as the third-ranking pilot on Apollo 1. In 1967, he died in a fire along with fellow astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom and Ed White during a pre-launch test for the mission that was then Cape Kennedy Air Force Station, Launch Complex 34, Florida. He was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor and a second Air Medal. In 1944, Alexandrovich Suvorov, he had 10 spacewalks. He was a Russian engineer cosmonaut from 1978 to 93. He had four spacewalks, 373 days in space, flew to orbit on Soyuz T7 in 1982, T8, and T8 Soyuz TM-17. Next up, another Russian. We have Valentin Velesnik Veredenko. He was born in the Ukraine. He was a pilot from 1960 to 61, was killed in a fire in a spacecraft simulator run using a pure oxygen atmosphere. His death had a profound effect on future design of Soviet spacecraft. On February 19, 1932, Joe Pete Kerwin was born. He was an American physician and astronaut from 1965 to 87, a member of the first successful space station mission, space flight of 28 days, and flew on orbit on Skylab 2, which was the first manned mission to the Skylab space station. In 1948, on this date, Dr. Byron Lichtenberg was born. He was an American engineer, payload specialist from 78 to 92, flew 138 combat missions in Vietnam, 2 space flights, 19.2 days in space. He flew on STS-9, 1983, and STS-45. Also, the birth of 1952 is Rodolfo Neria Vela. He is from Mexico, Mexican engineer, payload specialist in 1985, and he was the first Mexican astronaut, 6.9 days in flight in space, and flew in orbit on STS-61B in 1985. 1955, there are a lot of astronauts in here, gang. We have Italian physician and payload specialist. This would be Roberto Maria Tacchino. He was astronaut from 1990 to 93, professor selected in the Italian Space Agency, ASI, as one of 5 Italian astronaut candidates for the European Space Agency in astronaut selection. I have some news for you. You can go visit him. He's a practicing physician, but you have to go to Italy to do so. Next up is the birth of George David Lowe. He was an astronaut, engineer, mission specialist from 84 to 96, son of former astronaut administrator, George M. Low. He had 3 space flights, 29.8 days in space, flew on STS 32, 43, and 57. And this is KE5ICX and Skynet. On February, this time in this week in space history, February 14th, the Luna 20 launches to the moon. Luna 20 was the second of 3 successful Soviet lunar sample return missions. It was flown as part of the lunar program as a robotic competitor to the 6 successful Apollo lunar return missions. On February 14th, 2000, near the asteroid Eros orbit insertion took place. Near-Earth Asteroid Reconnaissance Mission, I think is what NEAR stands for, finally entered orbit around Eros on downtown today in 2000. The orbit insertion, it's got the information here, it was renamed NEAR Shoemaker Probe, moved into orbit, circular orbit around Eros on April 2nd. NEAR returned spectacular detailed pictures of the surface over the next several months. Studies were made of the asteroid's size, shape, mass, magnetic field composition, and surface and internal temperatures. On February 17, 1959, Vanguard 2E launched. It was an Earth, it is, get this, folks, an Earth-orbiting satellite launched on February 17, 1959, aboard a Vanguard SLV-4 rocket as part of the United States Navy Project Vanguard. The satellite was designed to measure cloud cover distribution over the daylight portions of its orbit for a period of 19 days, and to provide information on the density of atmosphere for its lifetime of its orbit, about 300 years. As the first weather satellite and one of the first orbital missions, the launch of Vanguard 2 was an important milestone in the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. 1965, Ranger 8 was a lunar probe for the Ranger program, a robotic spacecraft series launched by NASA for early to mid-1960s to obtain the first close-up images of the moon's surface. These pictures helped to select landing sites for Apollo missions and were used for scientific study. During the 65 mission, Ranger 8 transmitted 7,137 lunar surface photographs before it crashed into the moon as planned. This was the second successful mission in the Ranger series following Ranger 7. Each design and purpose were very similar to those of 7. It had 6 television Vidcon cameras, 2 full scan and 4 partial scan cameras. Its sole purpose was to document the moon's surface. In 1973, the Manned Spacecraft Center is renamed to the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center by Public Law 93-8. The late president's interest and support of the space program began while he was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Aeronautical and Space Sciences and continued during his tenure as vice president and president. 1996, another NEAR, this one, oh wait, this is the same one. Oh, I got it twice. Never mind. Well, I'll skip that one. I managed to do that twice somehow. On February 19th, 1986, was the Mir core module was launched from Baikonur Launch Complex 200. The payload was 20,000 kilograms, or 44,000 pounds. That's pretty heavy. Core module of the Russians' new space station was placed in an initial orbit of 172 by 301 kilometers. Established its operational orbit on March 6th. It passed just 10 kilometers from Salyut 7 and 8 in March. First of the use of geosynchronous relay satellite for communications with the station was on the 29th. So this is the core module. This is also a core module that's on the International Space Station, kids. Thought I'd mention that. In 1990, a landing of Soyuz TM-8. This was a crew of Suvorov, Viktorenko, the two of them, I guess. They were on missions Soyuz TM-8, TM-9. A lot of times on these missions, they would switch. They would be on 2 different spacecraft. They would come up on one and land on another. Let's see here. I'm just going a little long. Let me do one other. I've got landing of Soyuz TM-26 in 1998. This is the return crew. Once again, this is crew 2 of the 3 came up on a different spacecraft. Soyuz and Vinogradov, together with French astronaut Eiharts, launched aboard Soyuz TM-27, returned on TM-26, undocked from the forward port on the Mir, obviously the Mir spacecraft, on February 19th, 1998, started their deorbit engines and landed in Kazakhstan at 9:10 Greenwich Mean Time. Okay, that's enough, folks. There's a lot of history here. It's hard to kind of pick these things out because there are literally hundreds of events that take place and have been collected and cataloged over the 50-plus years that we've been in space. So actually pretty close to 60 now. So there's lots of events. I picked the ones with manned missions mostly, but there's tons more out there. This is KE5ICX 1 time.
Thank you, reset Tom, inside BB.
1 time. Out. Clear.
Did I time this baby out?
It's reset now. We didn't lose very much inside BB.
I'm sorry. Probably a 3-minute timeout. I'll try and remember that. I cautioned everybody else about the same thing and then discovered I did it anyway. Oh, well. Okay. Anyone would like to check in, please come down.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Claremont Street.
Very good. I picked up N50F. That's Clay over Mesquite, one of our regulars. Thanks for finding us this evening. Well, we'll go on to the next section, which is Chaz again. You can never have enough of Chaz. So, Chaz, you're up with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Please take it away from KE5ICX.
Good evening once again. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide number 14, please, sir. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Auriga, the Charioteer. Auriga, the Charioteer, is a constellation known since ancient times. There are a number of stories and legends about Auriga is associated with. One is it introduced the 4-horse chariot into Athens. Auriga has also been said to represent the ill-fated charioteer of King, I'm going to mess this up, I haven't had my Latin for a long time, Onomus, who ultimately died as a result of his involvement in a plot to betray the king. Slide number 15, please. In recent Skynets, I've been lacking in jokes and puns. I'm about to make that up right now. Okay, here we go. I try to be impartial in chariot races, but I have to admit I'm with her, H-U-R. Yeah, if you're on the video, you only see the first part. I'm not telling you the last part of the joke except verbally. Okay, I hear you laughing out there. What did the chariot say after the parting of the Red Sea? I'm all washed up. Okay, wait, I've got a couple more. What did the left chariot wheel say to the right one? I'll see you around. And the last one. Oh, I hear the applause out there because this is the last one. What do you call a chariot's pony when it coughs? A little horse. I've got to be in the right window when I hit the space bar so I can transmit again. Okay, let me see. Where am I? Oh, slide number 16, please. Capella is the brightest star in Auriga. It means she-goat or little she-goat. Auriga is usually depicted with a mother goat and her kids on his left shoulder and arm, and Capella represents the goat. And the nearby triangle of Epsilon, Eta, and Zeta Aurigae represents the kids. Capella is actually a multiple star system with two main components, Capella A and Capella B, being yellow G-type stars that are giants. One estimate has the diameters of 7 and 13 times that of our sun. They orbit each other at a distance of about 60 million miles. Remember how the different distances between the Earth and the sun is 93 million miles. So they're closer together than the Earth and the sun. And therefore, they are so close, they are too close together to be split with even the largest telescopes. There are two more components of the Capellian system, two faint red dwarf stars that orbit each other. This pair of red dwarfs orbits the main pair at a distance of about 11,000 astronomical units, or 0.17 light years apart from it. The entire Capellian system lies about 43 light years from the Earth. Theta Aurigae is a white A-type star that is about 166 light years away. It's known for its strong magnetic field and its overabundance of silicon, chromium, and iron. It's also a double star that is noted for being difficult to split, requiring good optics and a good night, steady atmosphere, all that to be able to see it. The companion is a magnitude 7.2 G-type star that is near twin of our sun, separated from the primary by only 4 arc seconds. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 17. M36 Auriga is known for its open clusters, and it has 3 bright ones, easy to find open clusters that are Messier objects. M36 is the first of these 3 that we'll examine, and in Deep Sky Wonders, Walter Scott Houston wrote that this cluster is about 60 stars, but it looks sparse in comparison to M37 that we'll get to in a moment. Stephen James Amira, in his book The Messier Objects, writes that the brighter members of the cluster shine at 9th to 11th magnitude in front of a hazy background caused by a feeble light of dozens of 13th and 14th magnitude stars. The number of the observers notes a cross-shaped form by the central stars in the cluster. John Malice, in his book The Messier Album, notes that the outward streamers of the faint stars are crab-like in appearance. Slide number 18, please. M37 of the 3 Messier open clusters in Auriga, M36 to M37 and M38, most agree that M37 is the most striking. Walter Scott Houston said that it was the prettiest of the 3. Burnham wrote that it was usually considered the finest of the 3 Messier open clusters in Auriga. O'Meara wrote that telescopically M37 is much more wonderful a sight than either 36 or 38. John Malice described it as one of the finest open clusters in the heavens. M37 is a richer cluster than M36, having about 150 brighter stars, more than twice that of M36, including all of the fainter stars. The total stellar population of M37 may be more than 500 stars. Also, unlike M36, which contains mostly blue-white stars, M37 has white stars and even some red giants. A number of different authors have noted 9th magnitude star that, Burnham wrote, stands out near the cluster center with a ruby on a field of diamonds effect. Slide number 19, M38, in terms of stellar density, M38 falls between M36 and M37. It has about 100 to 120 stars, greater than M36's 60 stars, but well short of M37's estimated 500 stars. Like M36, a number of observers over the years have noticed a cross shape formed by the central stars of the cluster. W.T. Webb, Houston, O'Meara, and Burnham noted that. Although Burnham was quoting Webb, John Malus did not notice it when he was using his now classic 4-inch unitron refractor while observing it from the book, I should say, the Mezzi album. Though all three clusters of stars look similar in binoculars or a finer scope, M36, M37, and M38 are quite different in appearance in a telescope. And once again, this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 20, please. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellation of Auriga, the charioteer. I'm just giving you a sample of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And slide number 21, that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Auriga, the charioteer. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen tonight. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week we'll take a look at a doggone good constellation, Canis Major, the big dog. And back to the other big dog that's on the air. That would be, our net control, Tom. It's all yours again.
Man, I throw you a bone of attention and you become a bone of contention. Never mind. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet here on WA5CKF. Thank you to the Irving Amateur Radio Club for helping us out this evening after we don't know what's going on over at the repeater site for the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. They won't let us anywhere near it. I think there's fire trucks there. We'll find out soon. Who knows? Don't panic. We'll hope this is all over and this once-in-a-100-year thing is done. Okay, let's see. What's next? Oh, boy, another section for me. This is exciting. All right, everybody listen up. This is space launches over the next couple of weeks, probably the next week. I get this information from Spaceflight Now schedule, spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. So we have one flight, Starlink L-17. I'm not even going to bother with all the other stuff. At Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center, Falcon 9 rocket will launch the 20th batch of approximately 60 satellites for SpaceX Starlink broadband network. By the way, SpaceX now has one-third of all satellites in orbit that are actively operating. Yeah, that's pretty scary. On February 20th, we have a launch from Wallops Island, Virginia, from Pad 0A. The Northrop Grumman Antares rocket will launch the 16th Cygnus cargo freighter on the 15th operational cargo delivery flight to the International Space Station. The mission is known as NG-15. The rocket will fly on an Antares 230 configuration with two RD-181 engines, first stage engines, and a Castor 30XL second stage. Lightweight, but good enough. February 27th, 28th, overnight will be a launch of the Amazonia 1. This is from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, PSLV, designated PSLV C-51, will launch the Amazonia-1 Earth observation satellite for Brazil. The Brazilian-built spacecraft carries an optical camera to monitor environmental conditions such as deforestation in the Amazon region. Multiple secondary payloads from private Indian companies will also be on this launch. To be determined, early 2021, the Satish Dhawan Space Center again will be launching the Small Satellite Launch Vehicle, or SSLV. The first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. Then we have another one, SSLV, again from the same Space Center. This one will launch on its first commercial mission with 4 Earth observation satellites from Black Sky Global, a Seattle-based company. A rideshare mission for Black Sky is being arranged by Spaceflight. RM. I've got to check my time here because we have a net at 10:30. Launch Complex 2 at Wallops Island, Virginia. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch on its first mission from a new launch pad in the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, Wallops Island, Virginia. The launch customer is the U.S. Air Force, and the mission will launch an experimental mission for the space test program called Monolith with a space weather instrument. Monolith mission will demonstrate the ability of a small satellite to support large aperture payloads. All right, that's what I got for you on that. Oh, look, another section for me. Yes, well, it's been busy because of some of the problems this evening, so let's see here. It's 10:21. Let me see if there's additional check-ins, and I'll do an abbreviated rest of the net. Anybody else like to join us this evening or have any questions? Please come down with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
All right, we picked up 2 more. I got KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth, we got you, and KG5ZMG, that's Joe in Arlington. All right, I'm going to give just one more thing here, and then we'll just close it down. These are satellite passages over the next couple of days. We have the International Space Station. I'm just going to give the one thing there. Bring this thing up. You can see it on here. We have on February 21st a pass at minus 3.7 magnitude at 5:29 a.m., 68 degrees. Reaches highest point at 5:29 at 68 degrees, so it's coming out of shadow. It'll fall at 5:33. Boy, that was short. MSAT, I'm not going to give those right now. MSAT is an old polar satellite that's been in orbit. It's gigantic, and there's lots of good passes on that one. I'll tell you what, I'm going to close it down a little bit early tonight because we have to be cognizant of the next net coming up, which is the late night traffic net. After the late night traffic net is over, we're going to go ahead and resume the nighted nets. So we'll be doing tonight's movie, which is 1984. Are you ready? From 1956. So I'll go ahead and take any final check-ins. Anybody like to join us before we begin the traffic net here in about 7 minutes? Anybody would like to join, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close it out for now. I want to thank everybody who checked in this evening. We had 25 people checking in. Thanks to everybody who was involved, including the WA5CKF repeater and the Irving Amateur Radio Club. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other nets that we do, and we'd like to, if you'd like to try your hand, contact any of the net controls or send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics, discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as the audio and video feeds and other useful information by going to whiskey5friedchicken.org at the conclusion of this net. Till next Saturday night, I'm closing this net at 22:24 local time. I think that's right. And 7-3, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe. After the traffic net this evening, late traffic net, check in again after that. We will be doing tonight's movie, which is 1984 from the BBC, well, the British production from 1956, which should be most interesting. So come back then. Thank you all for who participated, and we'll see you in a bit. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
Calling is far too weak to make this repeater. This is N5BB in Irving.
I just getting ready to say that, Bill. This is K5YK. Remember, I need to use the repeater. Now's the time to do it before I begin the net in a couple minutes. K5YK.
Roger, you can hit this very well. That reminds me, I'm going to add you to an email I'm sending so you know the situation. So be looking for an email from me within about a minute inside BB.
All right, sir. I will be checking my email shortly and see what I can get. Thank you, sir. KE5 watching. Tyson Color, you're all noise. I know there's somebody they're talking about. Can't make it out what it is. It's all noise. So you either need to improve your power or improve your position and try again later. And we'll be getting in that in about a minute. This is Kilo Echo 5, Yankee Tango Alpha. My name is Roger, and I'll be in the control station for this station of the DFW Metroplex Late Traffic Net. This net is a local affiliate of the ARL's National Traffic System, and our purposes are to move traffic into and out of the DFW area through the NTS and to provide training for all those stations interested in traffic handling. All stations licensed on the frequency are welcome and encouraged to participate. This is a directed net, therefore please do not transmit without direction from the control. Stations are reminded to check in, use their call sign only, and the ID at the end of all transmissions. Stations need to check out the net to do so by rechecking with net control, indicating the need to secure, and also indicating what should be done with any list of traffic. Stations with emergency or party traffic may enter the net at any time by using the approach sign break followed by their call sign. Are there any stations with emergency or party traffic? So I have an alternate net control station here. Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Hotel. F5 GRH, good evening, Muslim. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have any traffic? I have one going to Kilo India 5, November, Juliet, Mike. And good evening, Cat 5 GRH. Okay, does this person check in on the net sometimes? Yes, sir, he does sometimes. Never know. KF5 GRH. All right, then I'll get you on for KF5 NJM. And if he checks in, we'll send it along for you. Thanks for taking off the net. Now our liaison station to heavy with the Texas CW net. That's sending from the Texas traffic net. How about the 7290 traffic net? How about digital net? Seventy stations going to DFW early. Kilo Golf 5, November Alpha. 85 in the name. Thanks for stopping by and checking early, sir. Do you have any traffic?
Good evening, Roger, and thanks for running the net this evening. I have no traffic, KG5 NNA.
You get 7, no traffic. Are there any areas or races liaisons from Indian or Texas County? All right, then let's take a list of check-ins with stations wishing to come to tonight's net with traffic and traffic only. Stations with traffic and traffic only connected call sign phonetically. Okay, 5 White Cave, DFW Metroplex Late Traffic Net. Can open it up now and take the check-ins from any stations wishing to come in tonight's net. Any stations with or without traffic connected call sign phonetically.
Alpha 5, Sierra Alpha. Kilo 8, Alpha Mike Hotel.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa.
K5SA, good evening, Sean. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have any traffic?
Good evening to you, Roger, and to everyone else on the net this evening. Apologize for the confusion of earlier. Thank you for running the net tonight. I've got no traffic. AA5SA.
Thanks for stopping by. I guess you have no traffic and no apology needed. That's how we roll. We just take care of what needs to be taken care of. Thanks for stopping by. K8AMH, good evening, Aaron. Thank you for stopping by, sir. Do you have any traffic?
Hey, Roger, everybody. No traffic. K8AMH.
All right, thanks for coming by. K85AMP, good evening, Alan. Do you have any traffic, sir?
Good evening, Roger. I have one to Tucson, Arizona, K5AMP.
I guess you have one going to Tucson, and we'll get that made here shortly. Thanks for stopping by. Take another round of check-ins. Any stations with or without traffic, kinetic call sign phonetically.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Inside BB, good evening, Bill. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have any traffic, sir?
Good evening again, Roger. I have no traffic this evening, but I do have an announcement. This is inside BB. Thank you.
All right, sir. Well, I'll get you to your announcement here in just a few minutes after we've got the piece of traffic, and shouldn't be that long, and we'll get to you. Thanks for stopping by. All right, K5AMP. This is K5YCK. Trying to get my notebook open. Stand by. K5AMP, I'm ready to copy your Tucson, sir.
Good evening, Roger. Please copy number 2115, routine, Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa, Alpha Romeo Lima, 16, Dallas, Texas, February 21. Correction, check should be Alpha Romeo Lima 13. Going to Annika Smith, amateur call Kilo Echo 7, Juliet Oscar Yankee. Do you need the rest of the address?
Stand by. No, go ahead with text.
Initials Alpha Romeo Lima 40, that's spelled Foxtrot Oscar Romeo Tango Yankee 7, that's spelled Sierra Echo Victor Echo November. Figure 886, amateur call November 5, Lima Sierra. February figure 20, mixed group 2127 Zulu, initial X-ray, delivered via, that's Victor India Alpha, voicemail, figure 73 break.
And go station.
Signed Alan, amateur call Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa. End of my 2115, no more, how copy?
Copy 2015, sir. Thank you for the traffic. K5 what again?
And thank you for taking my traffic. K5AMP.
And this is K5YJ, DFW Mexico State Traffic Net. We still have one piece of traffic for KI5NJM. So check in this evening, we can cut that traffic. So while we're waiting on that, take another round of check-ins. If you take time to join us with or without traffic, come in to call sign phonetically.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, India Victor Juliet.
KI5 Golf Delta Tango.
And 5 IBJ, good evening, Justin. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have any traffic, sir?
Good evening, Roger Net. I have no traffic. KI5 IBJ.
And KI5 GT, good evening, Reginald. Thank you for coming by. Do you have any traffic, sir?
Eagle Roger, no traffic, KI5 Golf Delta Tango, back to net control.
Alright, thank y'all for stopping by this evening. Taking her around to check-ins, any station like to join us with the right traffic, come in and talk phonetically.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5 PM, good evening, Tony. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have any traffic, sir?
Good evening, Roger, no traffic, NT5 PM.
K5, I said, is K5YT, I have a question. K5YTA, AA5, I think, go ahead, sir. You say that they're going to have the movie net thing after this one? That's affirmative. They are standing by waiting for us to finish. AA5, I say. All right. Thank you very much. Just want to double check. There's so much has gone on in the last few hours. K5YT, GFW, Mexico State Traffic Net. Are there any stations with announcements of bulletins?
5BB.
All right. Take you down. Go ahead. See you, 5BB.
Yes, this is Inside BB. As most of you probably realize, but some may not, both the DARC 146.88 and the REACT 146.96 repeaters are off the air tonight due to power failures and battery backup batteries that have now run down. And we don't know when either of them will be back on the air. So after consultations between a lot of people today, essentially the activities, the nets that were going on the 88 repeater are temporarily going on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater and the other two repeaters. There's a 220 and a 440 repeater in Irving, and they're all linked together. But there is no repeater right now on 146.88. To make it simpler for everybody, Tom and I have connected things up so that the W5FC-R Echolink node is linked right now to the Irving WA5CKF-R Echolink node and to this repeater. So I just want to let everybody know that very clearly. And it's probably going to be this way for several days, but we don't have any idea. I mean, it could be back to normal in one day, or it could take a week. We don't know right now. It's weather-related failures in a couple different buildings. That's all I got. And the RACES training net will be tomorrow night, regular time, but on this repeater in 5BB. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that information. Valuable information. Do anybody have any questions for Bill? All right, Melissa, you want to hold on to your message? You need to move it.
No, I can hold on to it. Thank you. KF5JH.
All right, taking it around to check-in. These stations with or without traffic coming in across line phonetically. This is final call. Any stations with or without traffic coming across line phonetically. Nothing else to say. This is the final call. Hearing no further business and no further check-ins, this will conclude this session of the GFW Medical Late Checking It. All stations are invited to call us over your phone and net if you have any questions. You can find out more information about this net and how to contact the net managers and the ARL session traffic manager by visiting our website at www.gfwtraficnet.org. GFW will meet tomorrow evening at 18:30 on the 146.8 machine, which is not true because it will be on this one because Dallas is down. And that's noon again tomorrow night at 22:30 on the next repeater with a different net control. I'd like to thank all stations for their participation and thanks to Irving Island Creative Club for the use of their repeater, WA5CKF. I also want to thank Irving Club for the use of their repeater for all of our nets, the DARC net and traffic nets that will be going on in the future until the power is reserved. This is Kilo Echo 5 Yankee Tango. I have a closing net at 22:43 local time and it's putting the repeater back over for the Afterglow movie net. Thank you all. Have a great week. Oh boy, I'm back. KE5ICX, I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net here on WA5CKF. Does anyone need to use a repeater? Please come now with your call. Okie dokie, well, here we are. Let's move forward. It is 10:44. We do once a week on Saturday evenings. We talk about a movie that we all agree to watch and then discuss. And this week's movie is 1984. No, not the 1984 version of the film, the 1956 version of the film, a British black and white flick that was done from the 1949 novel, 1984. And it's one of those films. It was quite interesting. It actually came from the BBC television production from 1954. Yeah, it went back that far. I was quite surprised to see that that is available online as well. I'm very anxious to see it because that starred Peter Cushing. This version, however, starred Edwin O'Brien as Winston Smith, our protagonist, and Donald Pleasence. Yes, Donald Pleasence, Mr. Blofeld from the 007 movies. Blofeld, maybe not even Mr., but Blofeld from the things. He's in it, and Michael Redgrave from the Redgrave family of 10,000 actors. And James Sterling. Not bad. So let me read you my completely inaccurate description of this film. You'll like it, or not. Tonight's Afterglow info. Winston opened his apartment door and whisked himself inside. It was TV time! Yay! Nothing better than watching something fun on that newfangled device. He eagerly flipped the on button on, anticipating something exciting. The screen came to life. He could make out a man sitting in an apartment, much like his apartment. In fact, the person on the screen was wearing exactly what he was wearing. Winston thought, he dresses rather nicely. The television showed curtains with the exact same pattern as his own. Winston got up to get a beverage from the refrigerator. Surprise! The actor on screen did the same. It was obvious something was afoot. What was also obvious, Winston was dumber than a box of rocks, and his TV show he was watching would certainly be canceled if the storyline didn't pick up. So join us for tonight's Afterglow Movie Night. Afterglow Movie 1984 from the 1956 version, not the 1984 version, or the 1954 version, but the 1956 version in tonight's Afterglow Movie. Confused? We haven't even begun to fight. This is KE5ICX, and this is the Afterglow Movie Net. So, a little synopsis. If you don't know the story, actually it is explains nuclear war and devastation of Earth has given rise to three superstates, Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. By 1984, London, with its bomb-proof ministry, has designated the capital of Airstrip 1, a province of Oceania, controlled by one all-powerful party embodied by the figurehead Big Brother. In the spring of '84, Winston Smith, a member of the elite outer party, encounters Julie, a woman he suspects to be a member of the Thought Police. Winston returns to his apartment where an electronic surveillance eye examines the contents of his briefcase. Smuggling a small black diary past the eye, Winston begins to write down the subversive thoughts he fears to say out loud. Winston's reverie is interrupted when Selena Parsons, a little girl who lives next door, enters his apartment to practice denouncing him as a traitor. Robert Parsons, Selena's father, invites Winston to join him for a drink at the local Chestnut Tree Cafe. Oh, this goes on for a while. Let me see here. Ooh, this is very dense. Let's see. just summarize and say he falls in love, Michael Redgrave falls in love, and Donald Places Blofeld exposes him as the traitor that he is. There are 4 fingers, 4 lights, 5 fingers, 5 lights. You know the routine. And eventually everybody lives happily ever after in the dystopia world of 1984. Okay, with that, I'm not sure it's much of a help, and I'm on another repeater. I'll go ahead and take check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign name. If you want to say where you're from, that's fine. Otherwise, say, did you see the 1956 version of 1984 in 2021? Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. And did you see the movie? N5HYP, yep, we saw the movie. Okay, I got my first victim out of check-in, N5HYPXL. He did see the movie. And anyone else over here, come on. Did you see 1984? You don't even have necessarily have to have seen this particular version. I'm looking for check-ins. Come on, let's go.
Kilo, Bravo, 9, Sierra, Oscar, Kilo, Sean, Fort Worth. Yes, I did see the movie. Hope I'm getting okay. The 720 repeater seems to be fading in and out.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Oklahoma. I saw the movie.
All right, very good. I picked up a few more. I got KB9SOK, that's Sean. He did see the movie over in Fort Worth, I believe. NT5TM Tony, Dallas, yep, he saw the film. And I got KG5PM and James, yay, you saw the movie. I got you checked in. Additional check-ins, please come now. All right, I know the Echolink folks are waiting patiently. Echolink check-ins, please come now. I'll give you extra time. Please come with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw the movie. Please come now.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Didn't get a chance to see the 56 version, but I have seen the 84 version, and the 1984 version is actually on Pluto TV right now. KFI PDS, back to net.
Okay, I got actually 2 more. You just don't know that. I got KFI PDS, Miss Billy. No, she didn't see it, but she's watching currently the 1984 version, which is with John Hurt. I think is excellent. remember his name right now. Richard Burton. That's right. Richard Burton was in it. And I got John, KG5PPH. He didn't see this version, but he is checking in. Anyone else who would like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign. All right, it's a smaller group, but we are under extraordinary circumstances tonight, and that's okay. Anybody who would like to join us at any time, just throw your call sign out there sometime during the net, and we'll make sure to get you checked in. So tonight we're talking about the 1956 version of the movie 1984 in the year 2021. Write that down in case you get confused, and don't forget to carry the 1 because that's really important. So here's what we do. We talk about the plot first, our first round, and then we talk about characterization, and then after that we talk usually about special effects or music or whatever. Those things matter in a movie, and we do it in that order. So we'll start with the plot. So Tom, N5HYP, you are at the top of the list. You are number 1 for landing strip number 1. Is coincidence? I'm not sure. What do you think about this version of the movie? I know we've talked about 1984 from 1984, but what did you think about this one? N5HYP from KE5ICX.
K5ICX and the group, this is N5HYP. Yeah, we saw the movie. I got to admit, I've never read the Orwell novel, so I can't relate to how well this movie followed the script. I followed the book. I have to probably bet that there were some variations and things that were shortened or truncated or made to kind of make Hollywood work. But the story is good. It does, the concept of 1984, of course, is how Big Brother, how the state controls right speech, and controls history, and controls thought, and ultimately our protagonist ends up getting broken by the system and falls in line, and that's the scary part about that type of control of the state, that kind of control of speech. And so, yeah, the movie, even for 1956, would make you think. Of course, it was patterned after we were in the middle of the Cold War at that point, and so reflections of maybe China or Russia were evident there. But on average, it provided, I think, some good thought-provoking concepts. So it was probably in that regard fairly faithful to the book. So I liked it. This is N5HYP, back to Nat.
Very good. Thank you, Tom, and I appreciate your comments. I agree with you, and I'll have some comments here when we get to the bottom of the list. KB9SOK, Sean, you did see this version of 1984. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, I thought it was a decent plot. This movie I felt was okay. I thought it was decent for its time. It did keep my interest through the whole thing. Pretty much what the previous gentleman said, I agree with 100%. What he said. And this movie to me kind of almost had a feel also like a Twilight Zone episode from back in that era. Kind of, future twist on things. Even though in some ways that, even though maybe not in 1984 we had that level of technology, but today we pretty much do to some extent. China is doing that now to its people. Maybe there's not a screen in their house, but they do monitor all their cell phone traffic, where they're at all times. They monitor any kind of communications constantly. So they're maybe not quite at the level of the movie, but they're not too far from it either. So the prediction of the future for some people is not that far off, as luckily than whether we didn't have a nuclear war. Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting plot, and the whole. The only thing I found was a little odd was just the brainwashing part at the end. I wouldn't think they would go to those extremes. I think they would just, probably off the person if they were that much, that much trouble and causing trouble. But I thought it was interesting. The whole plot twist was, basically making some people think there was an underground, but there really wasn't, just so they could draw people out that was trying to start some kind of movement. So that was interesting. Now I would have liked a little happier ending at the end, but it's interesting. That's all I got. This is KB9SOK, back to net control.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. And you brought up an interesting comment. I won't mention it now, but kind of a side load on this movie that I hadn't thought of before, and I'll bring that up later. And thanks for your inspiration on that. But first, we're going to go to Tony, NT5TM. Tony, tell us what you think about the 1956 version of 1984. Yeah, I know it's confusing, but Big Brothers will help us out. Go ahead, Tony, from KE5ICX.
Long live Big Brother, right? I guess. Certainly, I mean, this is like doing Shakespeare. Of course they're going to get the core elements of the plot right because it's so famous and we all know it. Just as you can't have, Claudius not kill old Hamlet, you basically have to follow, okay, this is Winston. This is how Winston and Julia betray each other. So, yes, it did hit the high points of the plot, but it missed a lot of the low points. And a lot of those relate to character and music, and so I guess I will have to save them for another round. But the main effect of this version is to make me want to watch a horrible, horrible copy of the 1954 BBC teleplay. I mean, they pointed this ridiculously primitive television camera that could hardly capture anything at a bunch of experienced stage actors acting out a play of 1984. Because I'm really wondering if it was better. This did hit all the required plot points, but I thought it did so very shallowly and unconvincingly in a way that was a little bit, at times, more comical than tragic, and this is not a comedy. So, I'll have more to say when we get to characters and other supporting elements like the so-called music. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. That's very critical of your role, but that's okay. I don't disagree. Next up is James, KG5PMN. James, you saw this thing. What did you think about it? From KE5ICX, we're talking about 1984. Go ahead.
This is KG5, Kilo Go 5, Papa Mike, November, James up here in Oklahoma. I had one question. I was just wondering if everybody was aware of the computer mix-up. I didn't know about it until just a few minutes ago, but anyway, the plot. I thought the plot was kind of, I guess, simplistic. It wasn't a real heavy plot. It kind of started out with the Winston as being a anti-establishment type, I guess you could call him, and carrying on with them, carrying on. They're watching all the hate movements that they put on around the country or area, whatever, wherever it was, and trying to get into the underground movement, and actually thinking that one upper echelon government official was on his side, which I thought was going to turn out different. What he was going to turn out different than what happened, but and get a little bit of a love story in the mix of it. And then he gets caught and gets supposedly broken. Kind of wondering what the ending, the way it was. Was he actually broken, and was she actually broken too, or were they going to eventually come back around? I don't know. I just kind of wondered about the ending. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
All right, thank you, James, and good comments. Let's see, next up is Miss Billy, KFI-PDS. Oh, you did not see this version, but what did you think about 1984, the George Orwell story, and maybe the current version that you're watching right now from KE5ICX? Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I didn't see the 56 version, but I would like to watch it at some point because it's interesting the year that it would come out, 1956. That's pre-Sputnik and very much, Cold War at the height of, people worrying about communism. So it's an interesting time to have that done as a production, as was in 1984, which is when I actually read the book and saw the movie, the 84 version, in 1984. So it was really kind of surreal to read that story in the year, that it was depicted. It's a cautionary tale of totalitarianism. It's like, I see it as a cautionary tale, like this is where we could head if certain things continue, and it's a scary, when I read it, it was very scary to think, a society could be that way. And it's like, what can we do to prevent that? So it very much is, as someone else said, very thought-provoking. And I thought the 84 version was right with the book, was really good, well acted, as you said, John Hurt and Richard Burton, top-notch actors, just super good at playing complex roles and bringing out complex emotions. It just, to me overall, was, when I first read it, it was very scary and very thought-provoking, and kind of shocking to think a society could be that way, because I was young when I read it, and I was just like, how could society be that way? And one thing that stands out to me now is I was boggled by how could a television see you? And of course now in today's world, we know perfectly well that they can have cameras and they can be, work two ways. But when I read that, we didn't have that technology. So that was one thing that stood out to me, was how could that be possible? And of course now in my own lifetime, I see how it could be possible. So I guess with that, I'll return it to you. I'll have more comments on characters later, but overall, it's a very compelling film. I do watch it when it comes around from time to time, and it just happened to be on tonight, so I figured I'd have it on in the background while we had our discussion. I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS. Back to me.
Thank you, Miss Billy. Good comments, as always. And this is KE5ICX and Net Control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net on WA5CKF. Thanks to the Irving Amateur Radio Club for allowing us to move over here while they fix all the plumbing at the building that the ARC repeater is at. We don't know how long it's going to take. Hopefully not a long time, but we'll just have to see. And I guess we're not the only ones. I've seen some notes that there's another repeater knocked out as well. We'll find out. I can't confirm any of that. That's just what's coming over the text. Next up is John, KG5PPH. He said he didn't see the movie, but John, not to put you on the spot, but I'll go ahead and ask, do you have any comments? Did you read the book 1984? Did you see the 1984 version of 1984? Or if you got any comments, please, by all means, go ahead from KE5ICX. Sorry, he may have ducked out because he hadn't seen the movie. That's okay, no problem. Any additional check-ins, please come now. We're talking about the 1956 version of the movie 1984. Numbers, no waiting. Please come with your call sign. Oh, John's over here. He's telling me he saw it a long time ago. He's not able to transmit. He's over on Echolink. So, John, thank you for your comments. If you got anything you want to type into chat, by all means, I'll go ahead and relay it. With that, I'll go ahead and WB5OZL, that's Miss Brenda. She is here. She can't get in over Echolink or over the radio right now. We'll figure that one out. But she makes some comments. She says the plot followed the book pretty closely. The author's main concern about Stalinism and totalitarianism. It was pretty unsettling, especially the idea of being watched. That hits at our core. She says, I really didn't like it. Winston really had everything destroyed, not just his style of life, but his inner self, his integrity, and his very soul. And that is pretty profound. That actually is pretty true in my estimation. I'll go ahead and make my comments on it. This film follows closely to the book. I read the book in what was it? 8th grade, I think it was, and I found the book pretty unsettling, but I read a lot of stuff back then that probably shaped me going forward, but it was, this was pretty difficult for 14-year-old, I guess, something like that when I read it, and there was no movie that I had seen up to that point. I just read the book. Now, in this version, 1956, one thing you got to remember is, and I think this is quite interesting, this was brought up kind of in, who was it? I think it was Sean that kind of mentioned it, and he may not have realized it. You got to remember, this is supposed to be Britain. This is about Britain after World War II. You know, and I think that the idea that they're doing this production is about Britain is that it's the fellow citizens, and that totalitarianism essentially was defeated after World War II, but we're talking about that it survives through a shell, through a methodology that says that we're here to help. And that what could happen, I guess really what happened in Germany could happen in England. It could happen anywhere. And I think that that's what Orwell's story is all about. And in this particular case, it hits very close to home in Britain. And so, how do you handle something like this, particularly in the 50s? You know, in the United States, we had, for television, we had television code. We kind of could like smooth things over a little bit and make sure that it wasn't so horrible that people didn't, hit a switchboard and say, wait a minute, this is terrible. You're ruining the whole, in this case, post-World War II. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. I wasn't alive in 1956, and I really wasn't self-aware until about 1966, really, when you get down to it. So I'm not quite sure what that all means. I know what the Cold War meant. I knew what the threats were, and there was a bit of a paranoia that came from that. Probably a good one, maybe a bad one, I don't know. But the thing about it is that the whole idea is unsettling, and it definitely is unsettling after World War II when the book was written. And the story continues to do that. How well can you survive? How justified are you in statements that you make, and how far can you go? And the book suggests that you can push further with ideas and protection and all of that, and bring up all the things that caused World War II. Reset. Or for that fact, any war. Franco-Prussian War was the same way. It's a slippery slope, but as a society, and as countries, there are ethereal forces that come about, and they have a tendency to influence. And in this case, the other part is too that you've got television, and it looks back like what Bill said, or what Tom says, is that it works both ways. Well, now it does definitely work both ways. And what you say and what you do is recorded and saved forever, like Big Brother. The other side of it is liberating in that you can say and do things. You can potentially change opinion on our little micro pedestals that we have. It can also come back to bite you later on. It's very strange, and I think this and the story itself is very poignant in today's times. May you live in interesting times is the Chinese proverb, which is a curse, by the way. All right, boy, this one's a tough one this evening because of everything going on, but let me go ahead and ask, are there any additional check-ins? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see 1984 from 1956, or any version of it, or read the book? Why not open it up to that? The idea is the same. Please come now.
Whiskey 5, Echo, Bravo, Bravo. November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Oh, excellent. We got two more. I got W5EVB. Welcome back, David. And I got N5BV, Bill. I got you. So let me start with David, W5EVB. What comments do you have on 1984? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, first of all, 1984 was supposed to be a novel, not an instruction manual. But if you read some of Zbigniew Brzezinski, he was served under two presidents. He was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. His book from 1970, Between Two Ages, America's Role in the Technotronic Era, has some it's very well-written, smart book, and it predicts kind of a lot of things that have gone on with regard to social media and government and politics, blah, 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 which we're not supposed to talk about. So I'll just refer you to that book. But it's very 1984-ish, and I would I would highly recommend kind of taking a retrospective to see some people who actually kind of could see where things were heading, and it's pretty enlightening. Now, I would say the 1954 BBC live televised version with Peter Cushing is the best version of 1984. An orchestra played live in another room where they were doing the filming. It's much more engrossing, compelling, stark, visceral, present, and realistic than any other version. So I'd highly recommend that one. W5EBB.
Very good. Thank you, David. And you know what? I have to say this is that I watched this last night on YouTube, and some of us watch the movies together on Friday night starting at 8 o'clock. If you're interested, just send me an email, and I'll tell you how to do that. And we make comments and chat through the films, or we fall asleep. Sometimes both. But in any case, it came up on YouTube immediately after the movie was over. The television version came on, which I thought would be great with Peter Cushing. Of course, it's 11 o'clock at night, or 10 o'clock at night. I'm ready for Betty Bye, but I will watch it. And I've heard that. I think that the live version was quite good. So, I'm going to go back and watch it. I didn't even know that darn thing still existed. So, very cool. Thanks. Stick around. We got questions later on. N5BB, Mr. Bell, your comments on 1984. Go ahead.
This is N5BB. Well, I didn't check in earlier because I did not see this movie. I might have seen little pieces of some of the previous ones, but I haven't watched one of the movies all the way through. And I believe I read the book about a decade before 1984, in the mid-'70s when I was in college. But this is just way too far ago, and it's fuzzy in my head, and it's late at night, and I've been working on getting these repeaters all going together with each other for the last few hours. So I don't have anything useful to say. Hope that everything keeps on working here. We're going to keep on trying to let the Irving repeaters keep our activities going for a few days. N5BB, good night.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thanks for the use of WA5CKF this evening. Boy, I hope we can get everything back in order, but, it's funny today. I will make this side comment. We were over getting ready for next week's lecture and lab, wherever that may be. Ultimately, it would be remotely done. But we had 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Was it 4 people? I think it was 4 people. Over there picking up the kits and that from Irving. They're also members of DARC. We've got a friendly relationship between both groups and heavy overlap as well, and I think that's fantastic. And I just as a thing to say with any clubs, all boats rise. All boats. What is that line? I forget. Anyway. With rising waters, everybody manages to do well, and clubs are not competition with one another. We all love amateur radio, and we like each other, and that's the biggest thing, I think, more than anything. And it matters. It matters, and the fact that we work together, I think, is an important part of this hobby, because something will happen someday. It really will. And it's important that we're all together on all of this. And I think this is an example of that this evening. And I certainly appreciate it. And I like you guys and appreciate your support tonight and through the years. And I hope we can do the same. This is KE5ICX, and we're talking about tonight's Afterglow movie net, which is 1984, the 1956 version, in the year 2021. Okay, let's see. Let's go to characters. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention David, the Brzezinski book. I'm going to look into that. That is the guy who is an intellectual. I think he definitely a blast from the past, but I would be very interested to read his book. National Security Advisor to Jimmy Carter, and he was considered one of those brainiac guys. So no surprise that he had a book about this. I will definitely look it up. Okay, let's go to the top of the list. The next topic is characterization. So, Tom, you're number one on Airstrip 1. Tell us what you thought about characterization. You and the family from KE5ICX. Oh, Tom ran off. He does that from time to time. He'll be back. I know he will. Sean, K89SOK, your thoughts on characterization. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think there's definitely some decent characterization here. It sounds like I really need to see the other versions. It sounds like they were much better. Because the acting in these I felt was just okay. I do feel that the characters were written very well. I'm just not sure the acting was quite up there. It seems like it was a little bit over dramatized at times. The main character, at one point there, he's writing in his diary and basically saying that he's given up. He don't care if he gets caught or what happens to him. But yet then he falls in love a week later, and yet he doesn't really seem still that enthusiastic about life. At times maybe a little bit when he was up there, but I think some of it was acting. I'm not that familiar with that actor. I know I've seen him in something else before, but I wasn't crazy about the acting in this particular film. It sounds like it was much stronger in the newer version, so I definitely want to see that. But I do think the characters were written well. I just don't think it quite matched up in this particular film. We don't have much else to say other than that. Back to Net Control. KB9, it's okay.
All right, no problem. Very good, Sean. Next up, NT5TM, Tony, run into the radio. Tell us what you think about characterization from KE5ICX.
In a word, poor. This is a part of our common cultural mythos, and I really would like to thank W5EBB because, yes, the main effect of this movie was to make me get very interested in the 1954 BBC teleplay, which was apparently stark and disturbing and very well acted, and I really, although apparently the surviving copy is very poor and hard to watch, I really want to try it because it sounds like the characterization is interesting and scary, which is just as it should be, but wasn't in this version of the story. 1984 is a part of our common cultural heritage. It's like Hamlet. We all know it, we all studied it, we've all read it. It's like mounting a good or bad production of Hamlet. We all know the dialogue, we all know the key plot points. How well will you do? Characterization is everything. And this show was just indifferent. It wasn't terrible. I've seen far worse movies in the course of the Afterglow movie net, but it just wasn't any good. I didn't care very much. Yes, they knew what they were supposed to do. But, of course, our male protagonist always wore a suit because it was the 1950s, and you can't possibly have a man wearing anything but a suit, because that would be some sort of strange, communism. What if he just had to wear a strange denim jumpsuit, like as if he were in 1984? And Julia as a blonde with elaborately done hair, wearing one of these stupid, horrible 1950s flowing, poofy dresses. Oh, come on. When they were creating these characters, they didn't try to lift a finger to rise beyond these stereotypes of their era. They didn't. And that's what made this movie just be blah. It wasn't terrible. I'm trashing it because this is great material. It's like Hamlet. It should have been excellent. It could have been excellent. And it was merely okay. The characters were just 1950s tropes wearing 1950s clothes, and the people who did this production didn't give them any chance to rise above the mid-1950s. And apparently that BBC production that Tom has mentioned, that W5EDV David talked about, did well, and I just am going to watch it because it must be a lot better than this. This was okay. That's because the characters were merely okay, and given the material, they could have been excellent. NT5PM.
All right, thank you, Tony, and good comments all around. I don't disagree with you on that, and I'm eagerly wanting to watch the BBC version. Next up is James, KG5PM, and your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This KG5PM, man. Characterization. Well, I kind of like, I guess, the main characters in the movie. It wasn't a character overload for me. Winston. I think it could have been a little bit better if the movie would have kind of given his job title or his whatever he did. He sat at that terminal and did some inputting and said something about writing every once in a while, but it really, for the characters, it really didn't give what anybody did, except for the one, I guess you'd call it almost higher up in the Politburo type thing. I don't know if Politburo is the correct terminology, but anyway, the higher up in the, I guess, the government official. Kind of the only one that actually told what their job requirements or title was. As far as the rest of the characters, just kind of wondered how come some of the soldiers did not maybe turn against the government. How could you trust anybody in that kind of utopia, totalitarian type situation? How could you trust anybody in there as not being a kind of a rebel leader? Back to the net, KG5PM.
All right, thank you, James. Interesting comments. Next up is Miss Billy, KFI-PDS. You did not see this version, but what do you think about characterization? What do you think about the characters, either from the book or from the 84 movie of 1984? Go ahead, from KE5ICS.
Yeah, I did not see this version. I found Tony's comments interesting. Whenever you do period pieces, it's like you have to transcend and get into the period of the book or whatever you're basing off of. So it's unfortunate that they missed the mark on that. Some comments about characterization from the book and the film the version I've seen. I always thought it was interesting. Winston just went straight for the throat. He just wanted to rebel and didn't care the consequences. Julia was more a careful character in that she rebels in smaller ways, and ostensibly it seems like she rebels in ways, where she bends the rules and breaks rules without drawing attention to herself. So it seems like she takes more delight in some minor rebellions in kind of whittling away at it rather than just going straight for the outright rebellion and being really overt about it. So it's their characters, in that they want to rebel, they do it in very different ways. And then the O'Brien character, I often wonder, in watching the film the first time, back in '84, and reading the book, I wondered, was Big Brother really real? You see an image on the screen, but you never see the actual person. And now looking back on how things are with today's social media, it's entirely possible to fabricate an entire person. They showed a picture and they identified that with Big Brother, but beyond that, you never saw Big Brother walking around or talking or giving speeches or anything. It was always, O'Brien. So it's like, was O'Brien the real leader of the society and just using Big Brother as a front, something to direct people's, energy toward, and just like directing their negative energy toward Goldstein. Again, Goldstein was just a picture. So using these symbols to manipulate people, back, when you read this, and when it was written, I wondered how people really, thought about that, because nowadays in social media, you can create a whole social media account, give it a picture, give it an identity, and, and someone can speak on its behalf, so it's very, seeing it now, the things that the book portrays and seeing how things are in today's society is quite, it's quite scary to see that we have, the technology in place. So the characters I've often found are very complex and just, they have their different motivations for, trying to rebel or not rebel. So, sorry, I'm just a little tired. And don't recall anything else. Nothing else is coming to mind, so I'm going to return it to you, Tom. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
areas. So yeah, once again, I think I definitely need to check out those other ones. Sounds like they were quite a bit better. That's about all I got for special effects. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. And I just fired up Echolink again. I turned the radio off because we had the Echolink coming in through the link. The link disconnected, so it's back on again. So let me go ahead and go to Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your comments on anything you want about this movie. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here. If you watch the 1984 movie of 1984, man, that feels weird to say that, the 84 version of 84, there is a special extra soundtrack album. They initially commissioned the Eurythmics to produce the music for the movie, but they then felt when they heard it that it was a very good quality album, but was wildly and totally and horribly inappropriate for their movie. So they sponsored the release of an album, 1984, for the Love of Big Brother, which I own on LP and is very good if you like 80s, kind of synth pop, but is, totally wrong for the movie, but nevertheless features some strangely danceable songs and also hauntingly beautiful odd bits. It's a very strange Eurythmics album, and it doesn't really fit any movie ever released for 1984, but is a great little piece of musical poetry inspired by this particular Shakespearean work that just by weird coincidence wasn't written by Shakespeare. Oopsie. As far as, so that's just a fun trivia. I really want to try watching the 54 version, going to do that tomorrow. Makes me want to rewatch the 84 John Hurt movie, and heck, to re-listen to my Eurythmics album. Got to get the turntable out. So there's a lot of fertile ground to be gotten from this great work of English literature. And unfortunately, the music in this movie, didn't live up to it. It was all just these stupid 50s era television cues. I'm going to open the closet door. Dum, dum, dum! It was just one predictable, stupid little musical sting after another. I don't have the right words. I need to be P.D.Q. Bach and know how to write musical satire to make fun of horrible 50s music from movies, because that's what this deserves. But I lack the skill to make an adequate case against not just this movie, but all the movies and TV shows of this era, because they were all bad. And they might have had a great story to tell. I mean, we sure liked, for example, Forbidden Planet, but the music was always just so weirdly stereotyped and predictable, even when the acting was good and the story was good. So I just wanted to mention that weird Eurythmics album because it's strangely cool, and beat up on the film and television music of the 1950s. NT5TM.
Thank you. And I had forgotten, the Eurythmics had done the soundtrack for this thing, or the 84 version, and did not, I've not heard it, or maybe I have and I didn't realize it. I will check that out. Next up, James, KG5PM, and, by the way, I put the audio back on. The CKF link went away for unknown reasons, so I fired up the Echolink through 7.2, and I'll turn it off later on because we're not authorized. But everybody be good. Don't do anything you wouldn't do, and don't hold anybody's beer. KG5PMN. James, your comments on anything you want about this movie. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
This is KG5PMN. Well, first off, I moved over to the Irving Theater. I had to look it up. I moved I'm on the Irving repeater right now, so getting to, I guess, direct echo link feed. The special effects, well, there wasn't really a whole lot unless you want to include the, whatever they did with the television monitors and those, eyeballs, I guess, looking at you, and then that, special effects when they were trying to, brainwash, Winston and get him to fall in line, so, yeah, I really didn't see a whole lot of special effects, for me in this movie. I guess for back in the 50s era, they did what they could. Back to the net, KG-BMN.
James, next up is KF5PDS. Miss Billy, your thoughts on anything you want to talk about, special effects, music, any comments that anybody else has made. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Great, thank you, Tom. Yeah, Tony, you beat me to it. I was going to make that same comment about the Eurythmics album. What I will add is that when I saw the 84 version in 84, that was one of the things I was looking forward to, was hearing the Eurythmics music, and I remember being very disappointed in not getting to hear that. But if you listen in the end credits, they do play the song Julia, which I love. That's a very haunting ballad. But yeah, you're right, it's not appropriate for the film, but it is a very good album. But I remember being disappointed. I was looking forward to hearing Eurythmics in the movie more. One comment I will make about the 84 version is they filmed it during April to June of 1984, the exact time that Orwell planned for the book. And so I thought that was a really cool thing, to be chronologically accurate, not only follow the book, but to film the movie during the exact period of time that Orwell was depicting in the book, in and around London also. So they really kept that true. It's not often you get that accuracy with a film, but to be filmed during the exact time that the book was meant to be written. So I thought that was a really chilling addition to the production of the 84 version. So with that, I'll return it to Net. This is KF5PDS, back to Net.
Great, thank you, Billy. Some problems with the transmit there. I'll figure it out in a bit. That was weird, but we're doing things completely different. Thanks for your comments. Let's see. Next up is I think John KGO. No, he's gone. Okay. Let me go to, David, I think I missed you, W5EBB. David, go ahead with your comments. I'll give you extra time on that. My apologies. I may have skipped you because my notes are really bad tonight. Go ahead, W5EBB from KE5I6.
Thanks, Tom. No, I think we're in the right order here. A most unnerving poem or ditty sung several times in the movie kind of summarizes the fall of Winston and Julia. Under the spreading chestnut tree, I sold you and you sold me. There lie they and here lie we under the spreading chestnut tree. I mean, it just gives you the imagery of the connectedness and the propagation of all of these forces upon these people. And it's just very vivid. Now, another tangent that I'll go off on is the Star Trek Next Generation Chain of Command episode. It was a two-parter from Season 6 that it was a direct nod to 1984. But it was how many lights instead of how many fingers. And it was perhaps Patrick Stewart's most dramatic performance in this whole series in the physical and psychological torture scenes as administered by the Cardassian Gull, played by guest actor David Warner. Let me reset. Review, we see the appearance of a more controlled and directed society, such a society that would be dominated by an elite whose claim to political power would rest on superior scientific know-how. Unhindered by constraints of traditional values, this elite would not hesitate to achieve its political ends using the latest modern techniques for influencing public behavior and keeping society under close surveillance and control. The scientific and technological momentum of the country would not be reversed, but would actually feed on the situation it exploits. Now, while what I just said was a plot summary of 1984, it was actually a quote from Brzezinski's 1970s Technotronic era book, W5EBB.
Very interesting. Thank you, David. Thank you very much for your comments. I hope you won't make yourself a stranger. Really appreciate your comments. If you can stay up after 10:30 and spend time with us, I really appreciate it. Your comments are always interesting and insightful. I most appreciate it. All right. Any final comments this evening? I'm going to close it down here. It's almost midnight, 1 minute before. Anybody have any additional comments? Please come with your call sign now. Hold on, I'm bringing up next week's movie, wherever it may be. Hold on, I've forgotten. Next week's movie will be, well, let me drop carrier and I'll tell you in a second because I gotta find it. Here it is. Next week's movie is Fifth Passenger from 2017. And then somebody actually recommended this for March, Moon 02, which I saw, not next week, that'll be in 2 weeks. That one takes place in 2021. So I'm looking forward to that one. So Fifth Passenger is next week. If you want additional information, send me an email, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray at yahoo.com, and say you would like to be added to the movie list, and I'll give you the links as best as I know them, usually Sunday morning. That'd be tomorrow. So I'm going to say 7-3. Thanks to everybody who participated this evening. Thanks to the Irving Amateur Radio Club and WA5CKF Repeater for your help this evening. It was most appreciated as we continue to do this. We'll let you know what happens with everything going on, water, electrical, and all that. Apparently there's some major fallout. We'll figure it out. Thank you, everybody. 7-3. Thank you for a great night of nets. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.
KE5ICX, KG5PMN.
James, go ahead. This is KE5ICX.
Tom, just to let you know, apparently the repeater's reconnected. Irving was not picking up receive audio off of Dallas. When Billy came on, I didn't get anything at all out of Billy. KG5BMN.
Thank you for letting me know that. I think what happened is that the tone is off. I had to reset the Echolink radio here, and I noticed that I'm not seeing a tone. So that may have been what happened. Extremely unusual circumstances this evening because of everything we did, and we'll keep that for future reference. Yeah, I did notice it, and I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, when Dallas dropped out, I looked up Irving and moved over on Irving, but then I think all I got was back RF back off of Irving. I don't think I got any more Echolink out of Dallas, but I'm not real sure. KG5, come in.
Yeah, in fact, I can confirm that. When I switched over to 7.2 on the Echolink radio, I've got it here because I run the Echolink from here, and indeed, the tone goes off. I don't know why, but I found it. The fact that this radio hasn't been off that frequency, 8.8, in probably a decade, that explains it. So I appreciate that, and I was kind of perplexed for a minute to figure it out, but I can see exactly what happened. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. KE5ICX.
KG5BMN. Hope to see you next week. KG5BMN.
Thanks, James, and again, thanks for the feedback. 7.3, everybody. I guess I'm going to shut down the Echolink for now, at least the transmit and receive, because this isn't our radio. This isn't our frequency. But thanks to everybody. We got through it. 7.3. Bye-bye. Bye bonds, as they say. See you later. This is KE5ICX Clear.